Okay, before we get started, we got to talk about what kind of tools you need. It's not always hot, so you don't always need water. I keep it with me anyway. As a general rule of thumb, this it's kind of funny. Pretty much everybody that works with me knows this, but when I run out of that, I go home. Doesn't matter where I am. Anyway, okay, back to basics. I want to show you, well, a few of the tools that we use that I consider to be essential to making being a grape grower a successful endeavor. Aside from having a whole bunch of ingenuity, which is always helpful in everything you do, pair of good sturdy gloves, especially when you're doing things that involve cutting tools. I'm going to show you here 3 different types of cutting tools in order of preference. The first tool that I like to use is a anvil type cutter, pruner. This particular one is the titanium version of Fiskars, and it's not a very expensive set. I can't remember what I paid for it. It wasn't a whole lot, but these have been with me for a long time. And I prefer these over the side cutting pruning shears because the side cutting pruning shears tend to get loose over time, and then as you go to work them into close and tight spaces, because they're loose, they make some pretty kind of crummy cuts. I could use a better word for it. But these guys right here, I can look right over the top of the center line. I can make sure I'm cutting straight through, and I'm going to get a good clean cut. One thing you're going to note in common here about all of these 3 different cutting tools, there's none here that have gas. There's none here that work with electricity. I don't use electric shears to prune back my the growth on the top of the vines throughout the season. I just don't do that. I don't believe in doing that. It leads to, first of all, the shears work like this when they're electric or gas, and it leads to double and triple cutting of areas on the vines that ultimately become avenues for disease to enter the plant, and we don't want that. I want one single cut, nice and flush, nice and clean. Typically, I make that cut just above a bud, or where a bud will be. I think that's going to be the best and safest way for me to describe it to y'all. Some people like to prune behind it. That leaves about a 1-inch stick in most cases to have to die off. But what I like to do is cut it near where I know the growth hormones are going to be, so that if it has a chance to regrow from there, that's where it's going to regrow from. And we know that where you see a bud is a sign of future life or present life, or somewhere where there might be a flower soon or fruit. In any event, let's move on to number 2. For general pruning back, I like to use these. They're adjustable for tension. They were fairly inexpensive. I don't think they might have been $12 at Harbor Freight. It's not a plug for Harbor Freight, but they're a pretty good tool. I mean, if you're like me, I'm not a Hulk. I don't tend to break tools. They stick around for a while because I try not to abuse them. I always try to use the right tool for the right job, and I'm a big tool guy. Those of you that know me, you know I got like a lot of tools for this sort of stuff. So anyway, these guys right here, I like to use these to tighten up the canopy on the outside, especially if I see a lot of growth that's going in the wrong direction. About partway through the season, I'll look at that stuff and I'll judge whether or not I need to do an in-season pruning. I'm not afraid of in-season pruning, but I don't like to do in-season pruning if there isn't an enormous amount of vigorous growth on the plants already. You follow me? Right now, while they're dormant, there isn't a whole lot of vigorous growth on them. But if I wait until just about when growth is going to start, the whole entire ecosystem is going to be flourishing with life, and some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it's ugly. Nonetheless, we want to treat everything with some respect, and in doing so, trust me, in the end, it will show in the quality of grapes that you get. It will show in the quality of the vines that you're producing. It'll show in the longevity of the plant, because you're not loading up the plant with a bunch of extra cuts and scars that have to heal over before the plant really flourishes. Kind of upset about that. Next tool I want to introduce you to is, I believe these are called loppers. This is a snap cut version. I've had these since I was involved professionally in arbor care. Back in the day, one of my previous acts was as a tree cutter. We pruned, we shaped, we topped, we thinned, we did pretty much anything you can imagine with a tree to make it look better, and in many cases to make it produce better and be healthier overall. Sometimes it's as simple as removing dead wood. Sometimes it could be removing a dead or broken leader, but that's what we did. So I did a lot of it. Anyway, I still have these from them that time, and that was 30 years ago. So like I said, tools stick around. And the last tool I want to introduce you to is called the tapener. This is a small version of what we used to use in the Vineyard, in the large Vineyard in Durham, and it's really a good version so far. I like it. It's pretty new to me, but it's necessary because what we use this for is for tying the vines and the cordones and the growth into place so that we can sort of culture it into our own vision. Y'all have already heard I'm doing a two-line system, so I need to tape a lot of vines into place. I want to use this particular tapener for both my reds and my whites. If I knew exactly which was which at this point, I'd have red tape and I'd have yellow tape. I'd use two different color tapes. That way I could kind of keep better track until I memorize everybody's names. But in any event, it's not necessary. I'm starting to see some of the telltale signs of them being white or being red, and at this point I'm reasonably comfortable knowing that we're probably going to have both varieties here, which is great. 2 thumbs up for that. But I want to show you how this operates. It's very simple. You apply a small amount of force, and it grabs this piece of tape right here. Hopefully y'all can see that. And you simply wrap this around the part that you wish to adhere to wire or to your pipe. And when you close it, no, I'm not going to hurt myself, but it is going to put a staple in it. Y'all see that? It's pretty cool, right? Now it's stapled together. Okay, so that's going to hold everything in place. It's flat, it's soft. From what I understand, these are supposed to be biodegradable, although I don't rely on that. When I no longer need them because the plants attach themselves to what I'm hoping they attach themselves to, I simply remove them and let the plant do its own thing. I collect them all, I put them in my pocket, at the end of the day I throw them in the garbage. So what else can be said about tools? Always exercise safety. It's not a bad idea to have glasses, especially glasses that might be shatterproof, glasses that actually protect your vision or improve your vision. Another good thing to have. And that's pretty much all we use here. If you guys got some ideas about other things to make things easier, please do mention them in the comments. Also, one last short quick discussion for those of you that are not familiar with my brand, you're not familiar with Creedmoor Fury on Facebook, maybe you're new to my page here on YouTube. I just want to go ahead and tell you that what I'm sitting on is wood chips, and more wood chips. That's it. There is no compost beneath my butt. It's not here. The compost that here is the resultant compost that comes from wood chips being composted in place. All of these chips sat somewhere else. They got turned over in a pile for a couple of years, and then they ultimately ended up here when we knew exactly what size garden we wanted for the grapes, and we knew exactly how much overspace we wanted so that I could grow some other things in full sun. My main gardens, both of them, are not in full sun, but this is. So that being said, we never put any dirt here. We're right over red clay, hard pan red clay. This is a low spot on my property, so a lot of moisture runs through here. We're not anticipating having to water very much. I didn't have to water a whole lot to get these babies to go and get rooted in, so I'm not anticipating, outside of having a real heavy drought, where our depth is currently about 8 inches and shrinking. So spring is coming. It will be here very, very soon, especially if I don't hurry up and get these plants pruned. But I will be taking a rather substantial amount of fresh 1-year-old wood chips and applying them to the top of this. I didn't need to do it in the fall because, well, we weren't going to grow anything else here, not ready to do so, and I already have a lot of growing space. But I want to do it to keep the nefarious germination content as low as possible, and also to rebuild along the permaculture lines. We want to keep adding and adding and adding, especially something that we have. It's a waste product from someone else. It's something that I make my life on. So we'll put another 10 inches maybe in some areas. I think there's some areas that are really low cut, and we'll probably put another 4 to 6 inches in many of the other areas. So next time you see this, after this short video series, I'll be up here.